A very good morning. It's just past 8 this Monday morning, and we're back again with another edition of Breakfast News. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be getting you all the latest from the world of politics, business, sports and entertainment. And I'm Anil Thomas, and with me this morning is Nancy. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Anil. How are you doing?
Well, doing pretty fine, but what do we have in store for the next 60 minutes?
Well, we have lots in the store for you, because we'll be focusing on the India-China border talks today, and very important 43rd Gst Council meeting. But there's a lot making news from the world of sports as well. Well, you'll talk about the French Open finals, where of course Nadal has won and now is equaling Federer's record of 20th Grand Slam title.
Well, exactly. It's sweet revenge for Nadal. He was beaten in straight sets by Novak Djokovic in the Australian Open final. He's come back, brought Djokovic, the world #1, to clay and handed him his first real-time defeat. The first game that Djokovic has lost across the year in 2020. But it comes as a big surprise because Djokovic himself was aiming for glory there on the red clay in Paris. But Rafal Nadal having the last laugh when it comes to winning that 20th major. We'll get you all the latest from the world of sports. There's also Lewis Hamilton, who's done well. But let's get started this Monday morning with the top headlines that we're tracking at the top of this hour.
Prime Minister Modi to release commemorative coin of 100 rupees as a part of birth centenary celebrations of the Rajmata Vijaya Raje Scindia today. In a tweet, the Prime Minister says it's yet another occasion to pay tributes to her great personality.
India and China to hold 7th round of Corps Commander level talks today at Chushul to find ways for peaceful disengagement and de-escalation along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh.
Seven Indians who were kidnapped in Libya have been released. Indians hailing from Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh were kidnapped from Ashafari in Libya on 14 September. The Indian mission in Tunisia played a crucial role in the release of the abducted Indians.
The 43rd Goods and Service Tax Council meeting to take place today to decide on the issue of borrowing for plugging states' compensation gap. The issue remained unresolved at the 42nd GST Council meeting held on the 5th of October.
In the Hathras case, senior state officials including the DGP, the Additional Chief Secretary, Hathras District Magistrate and the Senior Superintendent of Police to be present before the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court today. The CBI registers FIR against the accused in the case.
BJP President JP Nadal addresses first NDA election rally in Bihar, attacks RJD Congress alliance for indulging in politics of caste and religion, says Prime Minister Modi and Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar have changed the political course of the state. BJP releases another list of candidates for the second phase.
Sports news, Spain's Rafal Nadal claims a record equaling 20th Grand Slam title by winning the French Open 2020. The Spaniard beat the world #1 Novak Djokovic of Serbia 6-0, 6-2, 7-5 in the finals. And with his 13th French Open title, the world #2 Nadal is now tied with Swiss Roger Federer as the player with the most men's singles major titles.
Well, now what's going to be the top story that we are going to follow over the next 60 minutes? The headlines are through. Let's now take a look at the top story that we are following this morning. That comes with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi releasing a commemorative coin of 100 rupees in honor of Rajmata Vijaya Raje Scindia today through a virtual ceremony. One of the founder members of BJP, Vijaya Raje Scindia, is popularly known as the Rajmata of Gwalior. The coin is being released in celebration of the birth centenary of Vijaya Raje Scindia. The special commemorative coin was minted by the Finance Ministry as a part of these celebrations. Family members of Rajmata Scindia along with other dignitaries will also join the ceremony from different locations all over the country through virtual platforms. Prime Minister said that it is yet another occasion to pay tributes to a great personality.
And today, the nation recalls the contribution of Rajmata Vijaya Raje Scindia to public life, as it was on this day that Rajmata was born in 1919. On the occasion of her birth centenary celebrations, we take a look at the illustrious life of Rajmata.
Rajmata Vijaya Raje Scindia of the Gwalior royal family of Madhya Pradesh was quite famous in the country for her successful social and political life. Her name used to be recalled among the top leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Born on 12th October 1919 in the Rana family in Sagar, Madhya Pradesh, Vijay Raje's father, Mahendra Singh Thakur, used to be the deputy collector of Jalaun district. In 1937, she came to Jhansi along with her father, and here, on 21st February 1941, Vijay Raje got married to Jivaji Rao Scindia. Prior to her father's demise, she became active in politics, and from 1957 to 1991 was 8-time Member of Parliament from Gwalior and Guna, started early politics in the Congress. In 1967, Rajmata got disillusioned with the Congress. In the same year, Rajmata contested against the Congress from Karera for the Assembly and from Guna for the Lok Sabha election and won. Later, Rajmata joined the Jan Sangh. In 1975, she opposed the emergency imposed in the country. In 1977, Rajmata got nominated to the Rajya Sabha. In 1980, after announcement of Lok Sabha elections, the party fielded her against Indira Gandhi from Raebareli. In 1980, after the formation of BJP, Rajmata was made party's vice president. Rajmata became MP from Guna in 1989 and 1996. That moment of 16th May 1996 had always been Rajmata's dream for decades. A non-Congress coalition led by BJP under Atal Bihari Vajpayee's leadership came to power at the centre. Later on, owing to health reasons, Rajmata retired from active politics, and on 25th January 2001, she passed away. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, at the launch of the physical distribution of the property cards under the Swamitwa scheme via video conferencing, Prime Ministers wished the beneficiaries of the scheme who have got property cards of their houses. He said now the beneficiaries will have a legal document of owning their houses. The scheme is going to bring historical changes to the villages in the country. Prime Minister added the country has taken another major step towards an Atmanirbhar Bharat, as the scheme helps in making rural India self-reliant. Let's listen in.
And criticizing the opposition, the Prime Minister said that those who do not want our farmers to become self-reliant are having problems with the reforms in the agriculture sector. Prime Minister Modi lashed out at brokers and middlemen who are having problems with the introduction of the Kisan credit cards. He said the development in the country is not going to stop due to them and will continue to make the village and the poor self-reliant.
इतने वर्षों तक जो लोग सत्ता में रहे, उन्होंने बातें तो बड़ी बड़ी की, उन्होंने गांव और गांव के गरीब को ऐसी ही मुसीबतों के साथ छोड़ दिया। मैं ऐसा नहीं कर सकता। आपके आशीर्वाद से जितना बन पड़ेगा मुझे करना है, आपके लिए करना है, गांव के लिए करना है, गरीब के लिए करना है, दलित, पीड़ित, शोषित, वंचित के लिए करना है।
And let's now move on to our next big story. India and China will be holding the 7th round of the co-commander level talks today at Chushul to find ways for peaceful disengagement and de-escalation along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. The China study group, comprising Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, the Chief of the Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat and 3 service chiefs on Friday had finalized India's strategy for the military talks. Now, the China Study Group is India's key policy-making body on China, and India has been maintaining that the disengagement process has to start simultaneously at all the friction points.
Meanwhile, the centre is working relentlessly to boost up infrastructure along the border areas. 44 strategically located bridges constructed by the Border Roads Organization in 7 states and union territories via video conferencing will be dedicated to the nation by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. 10 bridges in Jammu and Kashmir, 8 in Ladakh, 2 in Himachal Pradesh, 4 in Punjab, 8 in Uttarakhand, 8 in Arunachal Pradesh and 4 bridges in Sikkim are among the 44 bridges. Along with this, Defence Minister will also lay the foundation stone of the Nichifu tunnel that will connect Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh.
And for more on the India-China border talks today, let's go across now to our correspondent Amritpal Singh, who is joining us with more inputs on that. Amrit, what really are the expectations today of the talks that are going to be taking place? And these are going to be very significant because today we'll also see diplomatic representation from Beijing for the first time.
That's right. After India included the diplomatic component in the military talks the last time around in the 6th Corps Commander level talks, which were held on the 21st of last month, the Chinese are also, sending a senior official from their Ministry of Foreign Affairs, though their political commissioner has been a part of the talks earlier, but this is the first time a diplomatic component is being added from the Chinese side. If you remember, India had added the diplomatic component of an officer of the rank of Joint Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, who also heads the WMCC, and has been talking to the Chinese essentially to implement and see how what was agreed between the foreign ministers of India and China on the 10th of September in Moscow on the sidelines of SCO, that can be affected on ground. So yes, India would be pressing on that. What would be important is that India would be pressing for an early and a complete disengagement of the Chinese troops from all friction points in the eastern Ladakh sector during these round of talks, which is the 7th round of talks, which is expected to begin at around noon time in Kyushu. Nancy?
Well, also, Amritpal, good morning. Amritpal, looking at this particular round of talks, are they going to explore ways to implement that 5-point agreement that was reached between the Indian foreign minister and his Chinese counterpart?
That's right. That was the agenda the last time around. India had stressed that when the two foreign ministers had, agreed upon the 5-point agenda, that should be implemented and effected on ground. India would be insisting the same, which basically contains, disengagement, complete disengagement, seeing that the situation does not escalate any further, a time-bound disengagement, and not allowing, both sides agreeing to following all protocols, bilateral protocols that are in place, and also looking at that, the agreement that was reached between the two foreign ministers should be actually implemented by the two armies. So that was the agenda the last time around. The Chinese, on their part, had insisted that the Indians first withdraw from the strategic heights that they've occupied in in south of Pangong Lake. The Indians this time around will be insisting, apart from implementing those 5-point agenda, that there should be a mutual and a simultaneous withdrawal by both sides, and it should be done at all friction points. Anil?
All right, Amrit, and what more inputs can you share with us as far as what's the view really in the security establishment, as far as resolving the issue is concerned? Are we looking at some sort of a breakthrough in the talks today, or what is the way forward really?
It's a protracted situation. Both sides, Nancy, realize that as winter sets in, it becomes difficult to maintain troops. Both sides have massive troop strengths on both sides. According to some estimates, around 50,000 troops on both sides, armored vehicles, a lot of heavy armory is deployed, which is basically counterproductive, and it's a zero-sum game. Now, how it has to be affected is on the ground is what has to be agreed upon, and the
Sure.
two sides need to thrash that out. Could there be a breakthrough? Well, one should always hope for that, but because it's a protracted problem, 7 rounds have happened. After the last round, the WMCC also met, but not much came out of it. So these are tricky issues which both sides need to thrash out on ground, and especially the military commanders of the PLA need to be on the same page as their foreign minister is.
All right, Amritpal Singh, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing all those inputs on the India-China border talks today. Thanks very much. And with that, let's now move on to our next big focus of the day.
Well, our next focus is going to be the 43rd Goods and Services, that's the Gst Council meeting that will take place today to decide on the issue of borrowing for plugging states' compensation gap. The council is likely to discuss the suggestion of non-BJP ruled states of setting up a ministerial panel to develop consensus on the issue of compensation. The council, chaired by Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and comprising of state finance ministers, will for the third time in a row discuss the issue of funding the shortfall of the goods and service tax revenue of states. The issue remained unresolved at the 42nd Council meeting held on the 5th of October.
And for more on what we can expect on 43rd Gst Council meeting today, let's go across now to correspondent Ajay Mishra. Ajay, good morning. Now, this Gst Council meeting today holds enormous significance where, of course, the Gst Council will try and find a common ground to resolve the issue. Ajay, could you hear me? All right, we'll try and reconnect with the correspondent with our correspondent Ajay Mishra on the 43rd Gst Council meeting today. That will take place later on in the day. But let's move on now to some other news for the time being. The 7 Indians who were kidnapped in Libya have now been released. The Indian ambassador to Tunisia, Puneet Roy Kundal, was instrumental in securing the release of the 7 Indians as India does not have an embassy in Libya. He confirmed the news of their release and said that the 7 men are from Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh. While in the video, they could be seen happy and saying Jai Hind and Jai Libya. The Indian nationals were kidnapped from Libya on 14th of September. We'll, of course, be getting more inputs from our correspondent Abhishek Jha in just a bit, but this is a news of relief that we have got this morning, and that is of the 7 Indian nationals who were kidnapped earlier in Libya in September have now been released, and this has in fact been done with the intervention of the Indian ambassador to Tunisia playing a critical role here in the release of these 7 Indians who were abducted earlier in September, and these men are believed to be hailing from Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and of course states there. Well, this is the news that we have
Well, in September 2015, an advisory had been issued for the Indian nationals, especially to avoid travelling to Libya in view of the security situation there. Later in May 2016, the government had imposed a complete travel ban, irrespective of the purpose, in view of the much deteriorating security situation there in the country. The travel ban is still in force. Irrespective of that, these 7 people have been freed and they would be returning soon to India. Well, for more on the story, Abhishek Jha, correspondent on the phone line with us. Abhishek, good morning. Abhishek, give us a sense of how soon can these 7 Indians return home? You know, they have been freed, but how soon do they get back home?
So, Anil, it's a really good morning for all those people, those family members of these 7 people who have been kidnapped but now released from the captivity of those terrorist organizations. This comes after a lot of backdoor negotiation with several international organizations or those organizations who have been working in Libya, and Indian embassy in Tunisia was closely in touch with them, and then to secure the release, and finally this news has come. So far about their arrival back to the country, the flights are not operating like normally it used to. So the special flights are operating, and intermittent travel arrangements are being made to repatriate Indians or those who want to travel back to India. So very soon one can hope that as soon as a flight is arranged from that region to India or any destination in India, these people would be back to their families.
All right. All right, Abhishek Jha, thanks very much for joining us for the moment on the developments taking place as far as the release of the 7 abducted Indians in Libya is concerned. Thanks very much. And moving on now to some other news. And from back home, well, the Bharatiya Janata Party on Sunday released the third list of 46 candidates, all for the second phase of the Bihar Assembly elections. Till now, the BJP has announced the names of 75 candidates for the Bihar elections. The State Minister Nand Kishore Yadav from Patna Sahib and Nitish Mishra, the son of former Chief Minister Jagannath Mishra, are among those named by the party as its candidates. In Bihar, the NDA has formally kick-started its poll campaign for the assembly elections from Gaya. And addressing an election rally in Gaya, the BJP National President JP Nadal listed the development works done by the NDA government at the centre in the last 6 years in the state. Here's more.
In Bihar, the NDA on Sunday formally kick-started its poll campaign for the state assembly elections from Gaya. Addressing an election rally in Gaya, BJP National President JP Nadal listed the development works done by the NDA government at the centre in the last 6 years in the state.
आज प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्वामित्व पत्र यानी 6,32,000 गांव में जिन लोगों की जहां जमीन और मकान है उसके स्वामित्व का डिजिटल कार्ड मिलेगा और वही कार्ड उसकी जमीन का प्रमाण बन जाएगा। इस तरीके से मोदी जी ने भारत के किसानों को आजाद कर दिया।
Sharing the dais with the NDA constituents of the state, the BJP chief slammed the RJD and the Congress for doing caste-based politics. Nadal said that during the rule of NDA, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, all sections of society have been benefited due to good governance.
जब हम विकास की बात करते हैं और हम विकास के दृष्टि से बिहार को देखते हैं, आप सब लोगों में से तो बहुत लोगों ने बिहार को देखा होगा, लेकिन थोड़ा मैंने भी देखा। बचपन मेरा यहीं गुजरा। पहले जब नॉर्थ बिहार, साउथ बिहार से नॉर्थ बिहार जाना पड़ता था तो 1 दिन लग जाता था और आज 3 घंटे से 4 घंटे के अंदर हम किसी भी क्षेत्र में पहुंच सकते हैं। ये बिहार का विकास हुआ।
JP Nadal backed Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and said that National Democratic Alliance will once again form the government in the state. Meanwhile, the BJP has released a list of 46 candidates who will be contesting from 94 constituencies in Bihar that go to polls in the second phase of assembly elections in the state on November 3rd. JDU has declared the names of all its 115 candidates, while the RJD has also started giving symbols to its candidates. Meanwhile, the Congress has announced a committee of 6 members led by Randeep Surjewala. BJP has released the list of 30 star campaigners for the first phase of Bihar elections. The list includes Prime Minister Narendra Modi, party's National President JP Nadal, Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Former Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, who was appointed the party's in charge in Bihar, will also take part in the campaign. Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Modi, Uttar Pradesh CM Yogi Adityanath and former Jharkhand CM Raghubar Das are also part of the list. With Yogesh Sheetal in Gaya, Rajesh Raj, DD India.
So how that particular elections are going to take place is going to take place in 3 phases. But coming back to that business story that we're looking at, the 43rd Gst Council meeting that's expected to take place 1 week after the 42nd Gst Council meeting was left incomplete. Ajay Mishra, correspondent, joining us this morning. Ajay, looking at the unfinished agenda that we carry forward from the 42nd to the 43rd meeting, what exactly is on the table? And 1 week is passed since the last meeting took place. Is there some kind of a consensus that you see arriving at today in the 43rd Gst Council meet?
So, good morning, Anil. I think everyone is expecting the consensus on this very crucial issue of compensation cess. We know that the centre have time and again reiterated that it will pay each and every rupee of the compensation cess due to the states, both because of the implementation of GST and the losses of revenues because of the COVID-19 situation. So in the last meeting, it was emphasized that nobody in the world has imagined or kind of envisaged this kind of situation would arise, and that's why there was no there was no provision in the Constitutional Amendment Act how to deal with this kind of situation when there will be actual revenue loss because of this kind of pandemic in the world. So this is an unprecedented kind of situation, and I think everyone is understanding it. Now, what is very evident during the discussion, Anil, is that the politics is at play. You can clearly see that the non-BJP states have actually not made up their mind on any of the options given by the center to go for borrowing from the RBI, and that's why the center, on the advice of the Bihar Finance Minister Sushil Modi, have agreed to actually negotiate once again with all the states, because the center wants to continue the talks on it, and that's what we're expecting, that the sense will prevail in today's council meeting.
Sure. All right. Thanks very much, Ajay, for joining us and sharing all the inputs on the 43rd GST Council meeting today. Well, that holds enormous significance, where, of course, the GST Council will try and find a common ground. Well, remains to be seen what really transpires in that meeting, and we'll keep getting you all the updates on that. We'll keep you updated on that. Moving on now, the Supreme Court will work with its pre-pandemic strength from today, as its 12 benches with about 30 judges would assemble through video conferencing daily. 5 benches of 2 to 3 judges in different combinations had been sitting on the working days to hear around 20 cases daily since the outbreak of COVID-19 in March this year. And according to the Apex Court's website, 8 benches with 3 judges each and 2 other benches with 2 judges each will hear the cases from today. There will be 2 single judges benches to hear and decide the transfer petitions. The increased strength will double the output of the Supreme Court, which has decided not to start the physical hearings yet due to the COVID-19 situation in the country. The top court has been hearing matters through video conferencing since 23rd of March. That's 2 days before a nationwide lockdown was imposed to contain the spread of COVID-19. And besides that, to facilitate the lawyers and litigants who may face difficulty in joining the video conferencing, 12 facilitation rooms have been created. Out of these, 5 facilitation rooms are functional from the additional building complex of the Supreme Court of India, and 7 VC facilitation rooms are functional, 1 each from the District Court complex of Delhi. Besides that, the technical VC assistance is provided in the VC facilitation rooms as well.
Moving on, the National Testing Agency is likely to announce the results of the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test 2020 today. NTA will declare the results on the official website of NEET. This year, the NEET 2020 exams were conducted on September 15th at various test centers across the country amid strict COVID-19 protocols, and more than 15 lakh candidates having appeared for the medical entrance test to get admission in the undergraduate MBBS and BDS courses. Candidates can check their results by providing roll numbers mentioned on the admit card once the results are out on the official websites of both NEET and NTA.
The CBI has registered an FIR against the accused in the Hathras case. The senior state officials, including the DGP, the ADGP, the Additional Chief Secretary, Hathras District Magistrate, and the Senior Superintendent of Police will be present before the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court today.
Well, Vande Bharat Express back on track. The Ministry of Railways has announced the resumption of the Vande Bharat Express train from New Delhi to Katra Vaishno Devi from the 15th of October. In a tweet, Minister of State PMO Dr. Jitendra Singh said that this announcement by the Railway Ministry is a follow-up on the discussions that he had with Railway Minister Piyush Goyal 2 days ago. The resumption of the Vande Bharat Express train will bring a huge relief and excitement to the Yatris who intend to undertake the Yatra during the upcoming Navratras. People of Jammu, especially in the business community, have hailed the announcement about the resumption of the Vande Bharat Express train from New Delhi to base camp of Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine in Katra.
Now, the Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan, responded to a volley of questions fielded by social media interactors on the 5th episode of Sunday Samvad. Sternly squashing rumors and removing popular misconceptions regarding COVID-19, the Health Minister gave a detailed information on the role of Ayurveda in the fight against COVID, the ICMR's upcoming study on the cases of reinfection, the selection criteria for vaccination and other critical information regarding the much-touted COVID-19 vaccine. And upon learning on the various difficulties faced by his constituents in Chandni Chowk, Delhi, he shared his contact details in the public platform as a response and assured that all the issues faced by people in his constituency would be resolved on a priority basis. Now, here are the 5 big takeaways of his interaction.
My dharma is to protect my people, to save lives and not destroy. No religion or God says that you have to celebrate in an ostentatious way, that you have to visit pandals and temples and mosques to pray. These are extraordinary circumstances and they must draw extraordinary responses. Prioritization of groups to be vaccinated shall be based on 2 key considerations. First is occupational hazard and the risk of exposure to infection. Second is the risk of developing severe disease and increased mortality. COVID-19 vaccines are in the various stages of phase 1, 2 or 3 or bridging 2 or 3 clinical trial data generation, the results of which are awaited. Adequate safety and efficacy data is required for emergency use authorization, vaccine approval for ensuring patient safety. Analysis of ICMR database reveals that many of these cases have actually been misclassified as reinfections. The clinical diagnosis of SARS-CoV-2 is mainly based on real-time RT-PCR, which also detects dead virus shed for prolonged and varying periods of time. The dead virus is sometimes sequestered in various organs and is intermittently shed for several weeks or even months after recovery. However, such a patient is considered as recovered and non-infectious. The ministry has conceptualized and promoted public advisories about the use of time-tested and evidence-based natural Ayush remedies for health promotion and immunity modulation of the people during the COVID-19 pandemic. The interventions advocated for COVID-19 like Guduchi, Ashwagandha, Guduchi and Pipili combination and Ayush 64 have a substantial number of studies which prove their immunomodulatory, antiviral, antipyretic and anti-inflammatory properties.
Well, time now to take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the country. Corona recoveries in India has crossed the 60 lakh mark. India continues to report decline in active cases of COVID-19 with the number of infections staying below the 9 lakh mark for the 3rd straight day. According to the latest data by the Health Ministry, the total recovered cases improved to 60,77,976. The national recovery rate has jumped to 86.17% with the continuous streak of high number of recovered cases being reported in the past few weeks. 89,154 patients of COVID-19 have recovered in the last 24 hours.
India is conducting COVID tests at a rapid pace. The central-led COVID management strategies have focused on early detection through widespread, easy and aggressive testing. Now, according to ICMR, 10,78,544 tests were conducted during a single day yesterday. The total number of samples tested so far has increased to 8,68,77,242. And with that, let's now move on to our next segment and get you stories from around the world in a segment across the globe.
Well, first look up at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. Over 3,77 lakh coronavirus cases being reported worldwide, with over 10,81,000 deaths being reported. Over 2,83 lakh people have also recovered from COVID-19 so far. United States tops the list amongst the worst hit by the pandemic in terms of infections as well as fatalities. US has over 79,91,000 cases of COVID-19, with the death toll now over 2,19,000.
And staying with news from the US, the US President Donald Trump has said that he felt 100% and would be heading to the battleground state of Florida today as electoral battle enters the final weeks of the race for the White House. Earlier on, Trump said he had fully recovered from COVID-19 and was not an infection risk for others. His comments came a day after his physician said the president had taken a test showing he was no longer infectious. He also plans to travel to rallies in Pennsylvania and Iowa on Tuesday and Wednesday. The president's illness has put a focus on his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has infected nearly 7.7 million people in the US and killed more than 2,14,000. At least 11 close Trump aides have tested positive for COVID-19 as well.
The widely used BCG tuberculosis vaccine will be tested on frontline care workers in Britain for its effectiveness against COVID-19. Bacillus calmette-guerin vaccine used to protect against tuberculosis induced a broad innate immune system response and has been shown to protect against infection or severe illness with other respiratory pathogens. Lead researchers said that they do not suggest it as an answer to the pandemic, but it could buy time. They added that probably results would come out not before 6 to 9 months, and the BCG vaccine is also being tested as a protection against COVID-19 in South Africa.
And Britain's government is designing a new framework for those places in England where COVID-19 cases are rapidly increasing, which should hand more control to local leaders. UK's housing minister said the government does not want to move towards a national lockdown to curb the growing number of COVID-19 cases, but will instead enable the local leaders to work more closely with the national testing program.
For Germans in the major cities of Berlin and Hamburg, socializing at night isn't as easy as it used to be due to COVID-19 restrictions. Late-night curfew was imposed in German capital Berlin from October 10th on restaurants and bars. Experts have repeatedly pointed out to two problem areas that have to be addressed: large groups of people who were not sticking to social distancing rules and gatherings in closed rooms. Until the October end, restaurants and bars will have to close at 11 p.m. until 6 a.m. and petrol stations will be banned from selling alcohol during those hours. In addition, a maximum of 10 people will be allowed at private parties indoor, down from 25. There are over 3,26,000 cases of COVID-19 in Germany, while the death toll is now 9,702 in the European nation.
And more COVID-19 updates from across the world. Well, closed since the COVID-19 pandemic hit Iraq in March, the churches reopened its doors last week in Baghdad. During the church's closure, prayers were held online while live streaming it for masses over social media. The congregation in churches followed strict preventive measures such as wearing face masks and respecting social distancing. The number of attendees remains restricted to 50 per mass to reduce the risks of infection, while for others, live streaming will still continue.
In Vietnam, at least 17 people have died while 13 are missing in central provinces due to floods. Coast Guards and helicopters rescued fishermen as strong winds battered the central Vietnamese coast in the central province of Quang. Tri-floods have cut food supplies to thousands of people. Around 31,000 people have been displaced and more than 33,000 houses submerged and damaged by floods. The region is also preparing for another typhoon, Linfa, which is expected to lash with more rains and flooding.
Around 40 unidentified people attacked police station in Paris suburbs with firework projectiles. Attackers also used metal bars to smash police cars and windows of the station. The assailants tried to force entry into the station but failed to do so. While the motive for the attack is not yet clear and none of the accused have been arrested so far.
Well, in Belarus, security forces detained at least dozens of demonstrators demanding a new presidential election. Security forces used force, including water cannon and bait, to disperse the protesters. Streets of Belarus are being rocked by protesters and strikes kicked by the landslide victory of Alexander Lukashenko declared on the August 9th vote. People have since taken to the streets every week to demand that Lukashenko step down and allow a new set of elections to be held in the country.
And after all the updates from across the world, it's time now for us to move on to our next segment, and that is the web review.
Well, time for web review. What does Abhishek bring for us? Over to you, Abhishek.
Good morning, Anil. Today I have Indian Express as my first newspaper, and which says that China is putting the orders citywide COVID-19 testing following new infection. So the infection is totally not over in China, and there are still cases of intermittent eruption of cases at some places, and this is Qingdao, which has ordered citywide testing. So the government is going how aggressively to fight against China, but there are still cases which are a reason for concern, of course. The next is the Hindustan Times, which says that today is going to be the Gst Council meeting, which is going to discuss revenue issue for third time today. The council, which is meeting on Monday, could also see some last-minute informal parleys among members, as everybody wants a solution so that they could quickly get the money to meet their crucial expenditure. So this meeting is happening in the background of certain states demanding more share and the pending shares of GST and to negotiate those things and to tell the situation, the reality. Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister, will be having this meeting with other stakeholders of the state also. The next is the Economic Times, which I bring to you, which has good news for all those battery-operated vehicles under its electronic vehicle policy, which says that the Delhi government has exempted road tax on its battery-operated vehicles under its new electric vehicle policy. The Transport Minister Kailash Gehlot has said this, that the new with the new policy, all those electric vehicles will be not have to pay any road taxes, and this is surely good news for promoting all those sustainable energy modes that we talk about. The next news is from the Times of India, which has said that from today onwards, Supreme Court is going to work with full strength. And as it's 12 benches with about 30 judges would assemble through video conferencing daily. Due to COVID pandemic, so much of judiciary work has also suffered. However, there have been instances, or there have been regular practice of conducting courts through online medium. But now, from today onwards, Supreme Court judges will be conducting with all 12 benches, and about 30 judges will be doing their judicial work through online mode. The next news is from Business Standard, which has said that railways to run AC coaches on trains with speeds between 130 to 160 km per hour. So as a step towards modernization of its rolling stocks, the Indian Railways is planning to convert all its non-AC coaches, especially on those routes which are on high speed, to AC coaches. And this will entail a better service, a better comfortable travel for passengers on those routes, where especially those are big cities, and people want to travel fast, people want to travel in a very comfortable and cushioned atmosphere. So a welcome news for those people and railway passengers. And Ministry of Civil Aviation has said that so far it has been able to repatriate about 10,51,206 stranded Indians through its Vande Bharat mission. Of these, almost 5,52,785 stranded Indians have been repatriated with the help of Air India and its subsidiaries. So no matter how much of corona pandemic is curbing the travel across the globe and the restrictions put in place, Air India and the government and the Ministry of Civil Aviation is putting all its efforts in that direction, where people from all across the world, especially Indians stranded at other places, could be repatriated back to their home with to join their families. That's all I have for news web from today. Back to you, Anil and Nancy.
Thanks, Abhishek, very much for joining us for the moment and sharing with us the web news review for the day today. Well, let's now move on. There's some good news on the tourism front. And well, for the first time, all the 8 beaches recommended by any country have been given the eco label, the Blue Flag certification. While announcing it, the Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar called it a proud moment for India.
A proud moment for India as it's made it to the list of nations with Blue Flag beaches. Blue Flag beaches are considered the cleanest beaches in the world. An international jury from the Foundation of Environment Education, FEE Denmark, has upheld a recommendation made last month by a national jury composed of scientists and environmentalists that had named India's 8 beaches for consideration for the coveted international eco-label, the Blue Flag certification. India's 8 beaches, spread across 5 states and 2 union territories, have been awarded the Blue Flag tag. The beaches that have been awarded the Blue Flag are Shivrajpur, Dwarka, Gujarat, Ghogla, Diu, Kasargod and Padubidri, Karnataka, Kappad, Kerala, Rushikonda, Andhra Pradesh, Golden, Puri, Odisha, and Radhanagar, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. India has also been awarded the 3rd prize by the international jury under the International Best Practices for Pollution Control in Coastal Regions.
I am proud to receive 8 beaches status of Blue Flag from the international organizations and juries. These 8 beaches are being recognized for their cleanliness, their friendly infrastructure, the sustainable developmental practices in the ocean nearby and on the beaches with public participation were made clean with good infrastructure and sustainable practices of beach management.
The iconic Blue Flag is one of the world's most recognized voluntary eco-labels awarded to beaches, marinas and sustainable boating tourism operators. India till now has none of its beaches tagged as Blue Flag. India launched its own eco-label, BEAMS, under its Integrated Coastal Zone Management project. Blue Flag certification was one of the projects India lined up under the ICZM project. Spain so far has the highest number of Blue Flag certified sites by the international jury. India is also the first country in the Asia-Pacific region which has achieved this feat in the last 2 years. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
So 8 Indian beaches getting that coveted blue tag. What it really means is that it's clean, it's green and it is safe for people to visit those 8 beaches of India.
Absolutely, yes. And with that, let's now move on to our next segment, our sports track.
Well, Rafal Nadal defeated world number 1 Novak Djokovic to win his 13th French Open title at the Roland Garros. With this win, Nadal also equaled Roger Federer's record of 20 Grand Slam men's titles. Second seed Nadal produced one of his finest displays and outclassed world number 1 Djokovic without dropping a set, with a scoreline that read 6-0, 6-2, 7-5 to win his record-extending 13th title on red clay in Paris. He also won his 100th match at Roland Garros against just 2 defeats since his 2005 debut. Top seed Djokovic lost a completed match for the first time in 2020. He was aiming for his 18th Grand Slam title.
And in more sports news, Lewis Hamilton equals Michael Schumacher's all-time record 91 Formula One wins with an Eiffel Grand Prix victory that catapulted the Mercedes driver closer to a 7th World Championship. Hamilton extended his championship lead over teammate Valtteri Bottas to 69 points after the Finn retired. Red Bull's Max Verstappen finished second and took a bonus point for fastest lap, with Australian Daniel Ricciardo third for Renault in his first podium since 2018.
Well, the feeling one gets after taking a look at both the sports stories, especially Lewis Hamilton is unstoppable with the rubber on the track, a race track, while Nadal seems to be in love with Paris and winning his 13th crown there, unstoppable and doing it in style, especially his 100th win there at Roland Garros.
And of course, equaling Roger Federer's record there of 20 Grand Slam titles. With that, let's now move on to our next segment and take a look at the health story of the day. And today is the World Arthritis Day. Let's take a look at this report and find out how you can reduce the risk of arthritis.
Arthritis is a problem that affects many people. With the aim to create awareness about rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases, World Arthritis Day is observed on 12th October every year.
Today, on 12th October, World Arthritis Day is being celebrated all over the world. This year's theme is "It is in your hand, take action," which means it is in your hand to protect yourself from arthritis. And if someone has arthritis, not letting that develop into disability. Therefore, it's very important to lead a normal, healthy lifestyle. And if someone develops symptoms suggestive of arthritis, don't delay. Please connect to your doctor as early as possible.
Lack of awareness about the symptoms of rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases is responsible for delay in diagnosis and delayed treatment. It is important to know the symptoms of RMDs and consult a healthcare professional early. Delay is often due to the lack of awareness. If not treated early, daily activities are affected, reducing the quality of life and affecting physical abilities. Early diagnosis is important to prevent further damage. Consult the doctor or physiotherapist about the type of exercises that are most appropriate for your problem. Being physically active can have specific benefits for people with arthritis.
Take action to reduce the risk of arthritis. Eat a balanced diet and exercise regularly. Be alert, be aware. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
So one needs to be careful about our health, especially arthritis, a problem that can trouble even the young as well as the old.
Absolutely. So take good care of yourself. And with that, let's move on now to our next segment, the history of the day.
In 1901, on this day, President Theodore Roosevelt officially named the executive mansion the White House. Before that, the White House was called several names, including the President's House and the Executive Mansion. It was on this day in 1911, cricketer Vijay Merchant was born in Mumbai. He played 10 test matches and his batting average was 47.72. His first-class batting average was 71.64 and second only to Don Bradman. He scored 13,470 runs in 150 first-class cricket matches. On this day in 1967, Ram Manohar Lohia, one of India's greatest freedom fighters, passed away in New Delhi. He had dedicated his life to the welfare of the country and its march towards total independence. It was in this day in 1993, the National Human Rights Commission came into existence under the Protection of Human Rights Act passed by Parliament. On this day in 2002, 202 people were killed in a bomb blast at nightclub on the Indonesian island of Bali. Terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda were blamed.
Well, time now to take a look at the weather and taking a look at the satellite as well as the temperatures in your city. Well, the withdrawal line of the southwest monsoon continues, and the depression over the west central Bay of Bengal moving west-northwestwards at a speed of 4 kilometers in the last 6 hours and lying centered there in the southeast of Visakhapatnam. It is very likely to intensify further into a deep depression in the next 12 hours, likely to cross North Andhra Pradesh coast and close to Kakinada during the early hours tomorrow. Under the influence, you have a rainfall warning, heavy to very heavy rainfalls likely over South Odisha, adjoining Chhattisgarh, South Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Rayalaseema, Karnataka, North Kerala, with heavy rainfalls and isolated places over Madhya Maharashtra, Marathwada and Vidarbha expected today. Extremely high rainfall over the north coastal Andhra Pradesh, North Kerala, adjoining coastal Karnataka. Light to moderate rainfalls expected over coastal Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, north interior Karnataka, Madhya Maharashtra and Marathwada. Fisherman warning is also there. Fishermen are advised not to venture into west central, northwest, southwest Bay of Bengal on and above Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry coast over the next 2 days. Well, time now to take a look at the temperatures in your city. Well, that's it in this edition of Breakfast News, but there is an important campaign that we are running, an important campaign on Masking Up India or Mask Up India campaign, an initiative of DD India to encourage more and more people to use face masks in the fight against COVID-19. Be safe, take care. You need to be more and more careful as the festive season is approaching. Take care and do not forget as you step out of the house to wear your mask.
Absolutely. Well, the mask is your first and the last protective gear. Do wear it. And in fact, before we go, we are also leaving you with that. It's a wrap on this edition of the Breakfast Show. But before we wrap up, we'll leave you with a cute video from Ladakh's Chushul village where Namgyal, a local kid, has won the hearts with his high josh. The video in which the boy is saluting the ITBP troops passing by, that was clicked by an ITBP officer saluting their bravery. Take a look at those visuals and we wish you a great day ahead. Take good care of yourself and do follow all the proper social distancing. Thanks for being with us.
पैर पहले खोलो बिलाओ हाँ ऐसे करो ये पैर मिलना था ना पैर खोल दिया पैर पहले खोलो बिलाओ हाँ ऐसे करो ये अब से बनाओ वीडियो फिर से करो एक बार विश्राम हाँ सावधान सैल्यूट Good.